Coming to you from the forbidden forest under a blood moon.
The horror.
It's the little podcast of horrors with James, Christina, and Chris.
Welcome to a little podcast of horrors. I'm your host, Christina.
And I'm Chris.
I'm James.
And this is episode 6 of our fun little podcast. And don't ask me the date with which this will be coming out because I don't know, but episode 6 nonetheless. All right. So my story.
So what are we drinking today?
Oh yeah. Okay.
If it helps you, Christina, what's fun is if I'm correct, and I'll look right now, episode 6 is on November the 6th.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, damn it. No, I was wrong.
Dang it. You hurt my feelings.
It's November the 8th. Wait, no? Yeah, it's November the 8th.
Oh, that's fine.
Remember, the 8th of November. Nothing really happened.
So I'm drinking.
If you can't tell, I'm drinking too.
From Martin House Brewery in Fort Worth. It's called Supermarket Softies. It's a sugar cookie ale with frosting, sprinkles, lactose, and vanilla.
Oh, are they our new sponsors?
If only. I would take them in a heartbeat, but it's delicious.
If you're listening.
I just really like Martin House. That's all that amounts to.
I'm still drinking Bullet Rye. I'm drinking Bullet 95 Rye, Frontier whiskey, straight American rye whiskey. This has such a good finish, a good taste, and if Bullet ever wants me to sponsor them by sending me cases and cases of their Bullet Rye, I will not say no.
You're like, literally say anything. You are live, girl.
You're live. Not like I can't cut it out easily and make it look like you never said it at all.
No, let me have the fear. It keeps me going. I'm drinking Bedburg Cabernet Sauvignon out of my I Heart Mom cup that my son made me. Because I'm classy.
I love it.
And if you can see in the camera, it has no handle anymore because I accidentally broke it.
I'm dealing with that same thing. Like several of my mugs have no handles because they just break off.
I know. And see, it's got his little handprint on it. It's like my
sad.
favorite mug for wine.
So child handprints are usually creepy.
In this case, it's endearing.
Only if like they're on the wall and it says die next to it.
Yeah, only if it's in blood on the wall.
Well, if it's some blood on your mug, then is it just creepy? Is it just kind of riding the border of creepy and enduring?
I mean, if it's my son that did that, then I'd be like, classic Elliot. Yeah.
Oh, Elliot.
What a rascal. Okay. Anyway.
Christina, it says die. Well, maybe it's not finished. Maybe it says die yet, which is harsh. I know, but.
He's health conscious. Okay. Calm down. Okay. I do have a story today. So.
Weave your tail.
Weave my tail. All right.
Entice us with darkness.
This is the story of Peter Stumpp. 2 P's.
This guy needs a theme song.
Oh my god, I knew James immediately was going to jump on this.
This episode needs a theme song.
First off, it was Adolf Gump, and now it's Stump.
It is another one that's based in Germany. I'm not picking on Germany. It's just happened to be this
You're a bunch of psychos.
Like we don't have enough stories that are horrible.
Stop giving people 1-syllable names and this will all be over.
All right. Well, we'll get to his name later because we're not even sure if that's his real name.
Oh.
All right. So Peter Stumpp. So is he serial killer, victim, or a werewolf? Bum, bum, bum.
I don't know. So far, I'm stumped.
I feel like you guys are getting really excited about this one.
Here comes the laundry list of puns.
All right. Sprinkle them throughout the episode, James.
Yeah, give us breathers.
I don't know if there are that many stump-related puns offhand.
Okay, so this is obviously a werewolf story because I ended it with werewolves, right? Okay, so this is actually the story of Peter Stumpp, the werewolf of Bedburg. Okay. So first, I'm going to kind of go into a little history of werewolves.
I love that she's like, this is obviously a werewolf story. With the last name Stump. Who else chooses the name Stump?
No, not because of the last name, but because I said serial killer, victim, or werewolf. So, like, obviously werewolves. All right, so here's a little history of werewolves in case you did not know. So, the legend of the werewolf, we're not totally sure exactly when or where the legend came from, but werewolves are found throughout the world. All right. And the earliest known, see, Chris, I can't speak either. The earliest known source was the Epic of Gilgamesh. So for those that don't know, that's an ancient Mesopotamian epic poem written between 2100 and 1200 BC.
What's sad is I know that because I'm married to an English teacher.
You're also a historian, so
that is sad.
Not that good of a history major. Like I know Gilgamesh because my wife. That's why I know Gilgamesh.
If I get any of this history wrong, Chris, I'm relying on you to fact check me live. Okay.
I'll go get her. I'll be like, Katie, is Christina right about that?
No, there's only one part about the Epic of Gilgamesh. So what happens basically where the werewolf comes in is Gilgamesh basically rejects this chick because she turned her former lover into a wolf. So that's like the earliest mentioned werewolf scenario. And it's this lady that turned her former lover into a wolf. So, you know, major red flag vibes. So he was like, nah, peace out. All right. So the werewolf also appears in Greek mythology with the story of Lycaon. So to refresh anyone's memories, you want to do it, Chris?
I say Lycaon as in lichen.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what it made me think of. Lycanthropy.
Yeah.
The belief that people turn into witches and werewolves.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Because you look like in a werewolf?
Chris's face.
I feel like at some point the story of me is going to come out in this episode.
I certainly hope not.
Of the night that I had a little too much wine.
I have a feeling the story about me that I'm about to tell is going to come out
from my mouth.
Yeah, because my story does not relate to you, or it better not, or we'll be really scared. But why don't you tell your story? You mentioned it.
If I do, I'm going to put it. And it's a story that's circulated amongst our group for a long time. Because one night I drank way too much wine and I told everybody I was a werewolf, and I started trying to take off my clothes because I was transforming, and Katie had to stop me. And yeah, and ever since then, my brother-in-law loves to refer to me as Wolfman. The end.
And he continues to tell everyone about the story to this day.
It's a really good story. I'm glad he does.
You don't love it.
It likens him to a werewolf.
Whoa.
I am delighted every time I hear that story. So
I wasn't just a werewolf. I was a time-traveling werewolf.
Oh, see?
Because I told everybody that I've also been there.
Sweet.
I actually went back in time and watched them all be born. My siblings-in-law.
Oh my God. You're so intense.
So you're like Dr. Werewolf?
Doctor Who?
Yes.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that tale, Chris. Because I know everybody would have been like, what the hell was the story that he's talking about? All right. I love that story. Okay. So back to history of the werewolf situation here. So Greek mythology, Lycaon was king of Arcadia and wanted to test, aka fuck with Zeus, and test out his omniscient abilities. So Lycaon served his own son to Zeus at dinner. Dead of the year. Zeus was like, WTF, and turned Lycaon into a wolf and killed all his other kids. And I did look it up, and he had supposedly 50 sons. So he killed. Zeus was like, I'm on a rampage.
Wow,
Everyone's
that's
dying.
really big. Had 50 sons.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have 3, and I'm all like, I need a nap, please.
Well, you know, Lycaon was not taking care of any of those kids. The good news about that story is that Zeus did bring the kid that Lycaon fed him. Zeus did bring him back to life. So he had mercy on that poor victim of a son.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah. There are a couple alternate versions of the story. One of them, Lycaon's sons feed Zeus a human child. And then in another one, Lycaon sacrifices a child at an altar for Zeus, and
That's
Zeus did
nice.
not like that shit. So he was like, you're a wolf. So the werewolf legend eventually evolved over time, and around the Middle Ages, that's where we kind of get that hybrid shapeshifter like view of werewolves that we have today. All right.
So we get a really badass story because Zeus is bad at punishment. Like if he had just
He's
if he had
over
done
the
his
top.
job right and like made him an anteater, then we'd have anteaters, and
Yeah.
that would be much less cool.
But
And a
instead,
much-
he
well,
makes him a fucking
a lot
wolf.
less murder. He just made Lycaon like superpowered.
Or like a
so he can
weresloth.
kill people now.
A weresloth that
There
just
you
like
go.
hangs on trees and
That'd be
smiles a
perfect.
lot.
See that
Hugs
when you said that,
everybody.
that just made me think of a ghost, space ghost episode where he kills an ant because an ant bites him, and then he kills.
Oh yes.
Try
The
biting
ghost
me
ants.
now, ant, from the afterlife.
Yes.
Like, why don't you just do that?
Yeah, that'd probably be a lot fewer casualties since werewolves are like superpowered and notoriously bloodthirsty. All right, so let's move into a little bit about werewolf trials. So I actually didn't even realize there were werewolf trials.
I was vaguely aware of that, not to any specific detail, but the
Mhm.
minute you said werewolf trials, I feel like, yeah, I've read about some of those.
I
in
want to see how
villages.
you do that. Like, how do you prove someone's a werewolf? Do you just kind of shake a kibbles and bits bowl in front of them?
They actually,
Or you
will
do go,
it.
who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? And see who in the crowd gets excited.
that is so wrong on so many levels.
But so historically
I would
accurate,
do that.
James, you actually nailed it. So they pulled
Yes.
out the Purina dog chow. No.
Asked
In
who's a good boy.
1647, because they had Purina all the way back then. If you bought stock
They
in
had good
Purina,
boys
boy, are
back
you
then.
rich now.
Do goodest of boys. Okay. Anyway, back to business.
We will now commence scratching behind the ear.
Who thumps their leg? That's the werewolf. Okay. So hysteria around werewolfery, my new favorite word, by the way, surfaced about the same time hysteria around witches started to surface in Europe. So in the early 1400s. It wasn't quite as extreme as like the hysteria around witches, but they kind of come to a head at the same time and are kind of hand in hand. But
Hand
so
and paw.
hand in paw.
I feel
That sounds
stumped by that.
precious.
I already used that one too. Can't just reuse the same pun
Leave me alone.
out of context. No
I'm
less.
limited, okay?
Okay, so people were accused of turning into wolves and mutilating cattle. So that's usually like you know how witches were kind of blamed if like crops didn't grow or like if
Oh, yeah.
babies died at birth, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So if there were cattle mutilations or any murders or any other animal deaths, they'd
Little
go.
did they know that was actually aliens.
Yeah. I mean, didn't they know by the crop circles, you know? So that's when they were like, it's fucking werewolves. Okay. So lots of people were executed along with accused witches.
Fucking
Chris?
werewolves. Sons of bitches.
So I didn't write this down in my notes, but I feel like it's important to know that like at this time in history, Europe had a real wolf problem. So fear of wolves was like they were a real threat. So I mean, I feel like it's not a huge jump to make it also supernatural. Like, why not? If you're finding all these things mutilated, why not?
Society
make it also
always blames
supernatural?
the furries.
Wait, what kind of furries are we talking about here, James?
Yeah.
The wolf
What? Elaborate, please.
The wolf ones. Don't need to draw a diet. Wolf. We're talking about wolves. It's clearly like the bunny ones.
Are you an expert on furries?
Not any more than I'm an expert on anything else.
Okay.
Okay, so we have kind of a similar circumstance going on with like the werewolves and the witches. So they target people and say they're werewolves, and then they would be tortured into confessing that they were werewolves and like how they became werewolves. Okay.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say that seemed to be the standard practice. Like,
Yeah.
anytime you were accused of anything, it was, we're going to torture you until you admit it's true. Like,
yeah,
you could accuse somebody of being a pterodactyl and you torture them enough, they're going to say, I'm a pterodactyl, just to make the pain stop.
I'll be like, I'm a fucking pterodactyl, dude. Like, I got pterodactyl babies.
Like, this is like, yeah, because that's gonna work. It's like this is concrete methods to get to the truth. No, you'll get anybody to admit to anything if you just stop torturing them.
They'll say anything you want. Yeah. So there were some similar elements to the confessions, kind of like the witch trials. Like they always had something kind of a similar vein. So here are some of the common elements. Were being approached by a man in black, given a...
So again, they're mistaking it for aliens.
I knew you were going to bring up aliens. Being given a potion or a magical item that's like, the item would be like enchanted. It's usually a belt, and it gives them their powers. And then participating in... like midnight forest witch rituals. So again, they're hand in hand here, or hand in paw.
Well, that kind of goes into the, like I said, the definition of lycanthropy. Because I remember when I was a kid and I heard the definition, which was the belief that you can turn somebody into witches and werewolves. And I always thought, that's an interesting combination there, witches and werewolves.
Yeah. Well, in the Middle Ages, they were both like selling their souls to Satan to get powers of some sort. Yeah. And then the last
furry
one,
powers.
Yeah, furry powers. Their secret parties in the woods. And then, after being approached by the man in black, getting their magical item, partying in the woods with the witches, then it's followed by a bloodthirsty rampage. So these are really common.
That's how most wild parties end.
What parties have you been going to?
He didn't want to answer that.
See?
Okay, so we have some ulterior motives for witch trials, werewolf trials, things of that nature, right? So one of those was this piece of information was specific to, I think, Switzerland. So I don't know if it's the same across Europe, but in Switzerland, they were guilty of executing people for werewolfery to get their property. So once people were executed, their property was handed directly to like the vassal of the king. So it was like a nice little land grab there.
So it's like the Wolf of Wall Street, except the wolf gets killed in the end.
Yep, exactly.
After sniffing the cocaine off of her butt.
God. That movie was really upsetting.
Yeah, I knew that in the first 5 minutes of that film, I'm like, I'm going to hate everybody in this movie. And sure enough, I did.
Not
Every
a
one of
feeling
them.
good.
I've watched that movie once, and once was more than enough.
Yeah, that was enough for
Yeah, I
me.
mean, when you have furries working in Wall Street, just things get a little weird.
Get a little out of control. Having bloodthirsty orgies and in the woods and such.
No, it's just regular Wall Street.
So regular orgies in offices. Is that what we mean?
I'm sorry. Just watching The Wolf of Wall Street, I kept thinking, like, how do these people have this much libido? Most of these people are in their 40s or 50s. I'm 43, and at this point, I just want to go to bed most of the time. Like,
it's the furry suits. They kind of give your persona a boosted sense of confidence.
Also, the cocaine.
There's a part of it almost wants James to watch this film so he can just be like, why? It's just watching that film. We're going off on a tangent now, and I'm sorry, Christine. I apologize.
Oh, good.
It was like I was watching this. I'm like, this entire thing is just exhausting. Like, no, thank you. He's married to Margot Robbie in this film. That would be more than enough for me. But he's banging hookers. There's orgies going on in the office. And I'm just sitting there like, this just looks tiring to me. Mm-hmm. Like, I just want to go to work. I would just want to go to work and go home. Like, I'd be like, the background be like, oh, great. Everybody's snorting coke and banging the lady again. I just want to finish my reports and go home.
You would never make it in Wall Street.
I wouldn't.
Chris.
I would be so, hey, Chris, you want to join? No, thank you. I just want to go home.
Yeah, it's upsetting. I would never want to leave Margot Robbie alone at home when I could be there hanging out with her.
I know, right? And I've watched several interviews with her. Like, not only is she beautiful, she's somebody I would just genuinely love to just hang out with, like talk to, go on walks with. I know maybe that sounds boring, but once again, like, she just seems like a genuinely decent, lovely person. Like, she's freaking gorgeous, but she's funny and she's got a good sense of humor to her, and she's talented. And like, I watched this interview of her, and she was just sitting on like her back porch, and I remember thinking, like, I would just love sitting on that back porch, just having coffee, talking about her day.
Did you see pictures of the real wife of that guy?
I did.
She was gorgeous too. Yeah, it was well cast. And now she's like a psychotherapist or psychiatrist or something like that. Like, she's a gem for sure.
Good for her. Good for her.
Okay, back to werewolves.
We have branched far off the stuff.
Yeah. Let me do one of my very natural segues back into our topic. Okay, so
Margot Robbie, if you're just by some weird, bizarre coincidence listening to this podcast, which is like against all odds, I'm actually happily married, but I would love to be your friend. I would love to just be buddies with you, and my wife would love to be buddies with you. Just throwing that out there.
Okay. Now that we've tried to make a friendship happen. Back to werewolves.
Also, Miss Robbie, if you're listening and need new script ideas, I charge a humble consulting.
No. No. How about no, James? Let Christina tell her werewolf tale.
Y'all are gonna have me drink all my wine before I'm done.
Let's liken this back to the werewolves.
Okay, smooth transition. So we were talking about ulterior motives. So one other one. At this time, the Catholic Church was working super hard to stamp out residual like pagan traditions, and they were also clashing with Protestants. So remember that.
It don't say.
It will become important later. So anyway, it's claimed that roughly 30,000 people were executed for werewolfery between 1520 and 1630.
That's not a word.
This werewolfery is a word. Thank you.
Just ask your local lycanthropist.
And it's my favorite new word, so don't even try
I'm
to
gonna
burst
call
my
her
bubble.
right now.
Margot Robbie?
I would if I could.
Well, anyway, I don't care if it's a word or not. I'm going to keep saying it. So, all right. So, supposedly 30,000 people were executed for werewolfery. However, there is a Dutch historian who's like, nah, that's bullshit. Willem de Blakehoor. I'm sorry, Willem, if I've mispronounced your name. So trace that source of information to like this notorious werewolf prosecutor back in the day who wrote an outrageous manuscript.
Oh man, I totally watched a Werewolf Law show.
That would be good shit. Okay.
Sign me up.
Trademark, copyright, whatever.
I
you
will.
feel on that.
Miss Robbie, I will gladly come up with the scripts for you for a modest consulting fee.
She could be the werewolf prosecutor.
Yes.
Okay, well, Blake Horror says like that's all bullshit. Really, there were probably only like a couple hundred people who were executed for werewolfery, but you know, we like to exaggerate things, so why not 30,000? All right, so now we get to our setting, Bedburg, Germany, like documented as a town as far back as 893 AD. So it's old, but could be older than that. They're not really sure. It's not a huge city. Like currently the population's 25,000 people. And I did look at Wikipedia. So Wikipedia, you know how they have like notable people for an area. So for Bedburg, they only have 4 notable people associated with the town. One of which is our main character, Peter Stumpp. So, and then again, I just made another note about it, about the 1500s, Catholics and Protestants were fighting it out. And apparently there was like a lot of clashing going on in Bedburg itself. So that was kind of like a major element, a major vibe. I don't know what the word is at the time. Do what?
Factor?
Sure.
Variable?
Yes.
Context.
Yes, thank you. So also, just like any other town during this period of time, the Black Plague was also occurring. So we got a lot of fear, a lot of panic, people freaking out. All right, so Peter Stumpp here. I wrote a disclaimer right off the top because we don't actually know that much about him. He was named the Werewolf of Bedburg.
So what we have on Stumpp comes up a little short.
Shut the fuck up. Yes.
Shut your stumpy mouth.
That one really got me. I like that one. Okay. Okay, so material, like the information we have about him was written like after the trials and were like clearly biased and possibly even completely fabricated. So we don't really know that much about him. So we know so little, we aren't even sure what his real name is. So we call him Peter Stumpp, but he's also been referred to as Peter Stuba and Abel Griswold.
Nah, it's Stumpp.
Totally different name.
He has stumped historians for centuries.
Okay, so here's where Stumpp probably comes in, though. His left hand was cut off during like a farming accident They're not
Wow.
sure what kind of farming accident, but he definitely was missing a left hand.
So we're going literal with this. He was like,
Yeah.
we call him Peter Stumpp because basically he's Stump. We called him Stumpy in the old days. You know,
Yes.
he had no limbs.
Yeah, one of the names they
Yeah, it's
referred
a lot shorter than calling him Peter doesn't have a hand.
Yeah, a lot shorter. One of the names was like Peter Stumpp, which literally means like a stump. And they think it was actually referring to his missing hand. So super rude. But I'm going to keep calling him Peter Stumpp.
As you should. Damn werewolves.
So here's stuff that we think we might know about him. We think he was born in the mid 1500s in the town of Ypres, which is close to Bedburg in Köln, Germany. They believe he was actually like a wealthy farmer, that he was a widower, but I couldn't really find any information about his wife or what happened to her. But he had 2 children, a boy and a girl. And supposedly he was pretty well liked, friendly, and successful. But I mean, if people are accusing you of werewolfery, then there's a downfall somewhere.
Somewhere. It's not the fact
Somewhere.
that you turn into a raging, hairy monster that murders people. Or maybe that it is. I don't know.
Well, let's review the facts, okay? Let's see if he's really a werewolf.
Let's review the facts about this werewolf case.
We don't even know anything about the dude, really, for sure. So there are no facts. Okay, so the crimes. So, like, why did they think there was a werewolf in the first place? So, mutilated farm animals started popping up all over the place in their area. And then women and children started disappearing. Some were found later, mutilated grotesquely, and others were never seen again. So these like disturbing events had everyone on high alert, and they like even armed themselves because eventually, like at first they thought it was just wolves. Because like I said, wolves were a real threat at that point, right? But so they armed themselves, but it quickly like spiraled downhill, and they were like, these mutilations are so bad. It's a werewolf. We got a werewolf in our town. All right. So now why Stumpp? Like, why do we pick this guy that's like missing a hand?
Because the werewolf only had one paw.
You are so fucking right.
Oh my God, is he? That's amazing.
Oh my God, James.
Let's just say James is the master
That's
monster
what I would
detective.
go on.
Okay, so that is one of them. So witnesses claimed the werewolf was missing a paw, a left paw, and he was missing a left hand. So
And who do we know that's missing a hand?
Exactly.
Son of a beats, it's Peter Stumpp.
Yep. Okay, so the villagers, like there were some villagers that had claimed that they had trapped the werewolf, okay, and it chewed its own paw off to escape. And so that's why they were like, oh, Stumpp doesn't have his left hand, so he must have chewed it off when we caught him as a werewolf. But Stumpp lost his hand like years before any of this. But they were like, fake news, don't care about that. You don't think you're missing.
Time-traveling werewolf.
That's how he did it. Yep.
Don't
That
you
must
know
have
that
been it.
werewolves have regenerative capabilities? So
Not in
Cheetahs
Bedburg, Germany.
Hashtag not all werewolves.
Okay, so some other factors that might have led people to want to target him. We previously mentioned the clash between Catholics and Protestants in the area at the time. He was a Protestant convert. So
He was a Protestant werewolf.
yes.
So really the werewolf part wasn't even the issue. It was just he was a dirty Protestant.
He's a dirty ass Protestant, yes.
damn, both of you. I'm a Catholic here.
And a were-Catholic, apparently.
Good Lord. I'm sorry, everybody that's listening. I didn't know it was going to go to this level.
Well, stop inquisitioning.
Anyway, that was possibly a factor at the time. Second factor, just like my first story I did, guys, rumors of incest.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So he had this mistress, and people said that he was distantly related to her, but it was also said that she was possibly married herself. So it could have been that her husband was the one who initially threw out Peter Stumpp's name, because he was screwing his woman.
Incest to us, it's a way of life. I've got a cute sister. She's only 13. And tomorrow, I'll make her my wife.
You're really upsetting me.
I do
But
apologize.
not as upsetting as what I'm about to say.
That's a relief.
So he was also accused of getting his daughter pregnant. And that's how people believe that his son was conceived. Because remember, I said he had a son and a daughter. So his own son was also his grandson.
That's
yuck.
I have no words.
So these
the stump
rumors
doesn't have much of a branching tree.
No,
It's
it's staying
pretty
pretty
much a
close to
stump.
home.
Yeah. It's sticking to the Stumpp family is sticking to the base. Oh, there we go.
So these rumors probably destroyed his reputation. So that's all, that's probably one of the things that they were like, let's pin it on this guy. He's a fucking freak anyway.
So why even bother going to where, like, we look at, like, literal incest clearly isn't enough. We need this guy to turn into a wolf hybrid. Then we got something.
Well, I'm sure because of the panic, they wanted somebody to blame for it. So why not this person? Because I don't think they were going to throw anybody in jail at that time for incest. So why not pin it on this weirdo that we don't like?
We can't get him for banging his daughter. But son of a bitch turned into a werewolf. Hear
him. All right. So in 1589, a group of men accompanied by their loyal hounds supposedly tracked down the werewolf and managed to trap it. Mysteriously, the captured werewolf disappeared, and they found Peter Stumpp in his place. Holding for commentary.
And they were like,
we're good.
What are the chances of running into this guy at his house that we're suddenly at?
I know. That's exactly what I was thinking. He was like walking around his property. And they were like, we trapped a werewolf. What? It's Peter Stumpp?
He's like, man, this is a really lovely night. Well, the werewolf was gone, but suddenly here is Peter Stumpp. Coincidence? I think not.
All right. So they obviously take Peter to jail or whatever they had back then. And to no one's surprise, tortured.
Whatever they had back then.
I mean, do you call the cops or animal control?
This is 1500s Germany. They don't have animal control. But I just want to go back to like Christina. They're throwing in jail. Whatever the fuck they have.
Like if I see a werewolf,
just put them in a room and be like, "You're in jail now."
If I see a werewolf today,
what?
I see a werewolf today. Is that
see a werewolf today? You're gonna run your ass the
but
opposite
afterward,
direction.
Is it a call to the police or animal control?
Honestly, James, if you see a werewolf today, you're going to be calling to God to deliver you from evil, because you're most likely a dead man, and then I'm going to mourn you.
You can't call anyone because you'll be thrown in the loony bin.
Yeah, you can't call anybody, because either side, if you say, there's a werewolf after me, they were like, okay, crazy.
No, just, there's a bizarrely large wolf pestering me.
Are you going to say, but when you call animal control or police, whoever, are you going to say werewolf? Or are you going to say I'm being attacked by a wolf?
I'm not an idiot. I'll just say a questionably large.
Then you're going to call animal control, because the police are going to go,
glad to have solved this.
You need to call
animal
control.
If you have a werewolf sighting, you call animal control. Good. Glad you have settled that.
Okay. Well, I'm glad
Hope
we
you're
settled
ready,
that.
Animal Control.
To get all the werewolf calls to flood the lines. Okay, so they take him to jail or whatever, Chris, and torture the shit out of him.
The kennel.
The kennel, sure. So can you guess what happens next?
He doesn't turn into a werewolf.
That is true. He does not. But he makes a shocking confession that no one saw coming. And here are the things he confessed to. Practicing black magic since the age of 12, naturally. Making a pact with the devil, as you do. Receiving a belt from the devil that gives him the ability to transform into a wolf. Once he takes it off, he goes back to being a human. I have a little side note about this. They never found a belt that apparently matched his description. I don't know what the actual description was, but I just imagine them trying on all his belts, trying to see which one would turn them into a werewolf and not finding
Hey, are you a wolf yet, Bob?
Not yet. Okay, he also confessed to killing 14 children and 2 pregnant women. So this is a gross detail, but since it's probably complete fiction, I feel okay talking about it. So for the 2 pregnant women, he claimed he ripped out the babies from their wombs and ate their hearts. So just like really leaning into the whole like, I made a deal with the devil and now I eat babies.
Now this is just getting grim dark.
Yeah. And he said that one of the children that he killed was his own son. So.
And he likes pushing grandmas into traffic and kicking puppies.
Yeah. Wears pentagrams on all his shirts and black lipstick. So just like straight into the stereotype there. All right. So at his trial, of course, they brought the forced confession as evidence. And then a couple other claims were thrown at him. So he was accused of being an insatiable bloodsucker who killed livestock, men, women, and children for 25 years in an attempt to sate his appetite.
Wouldn't they notice that many people
You would
being
think.
butchered?
Yeah, you would think. He was also accused of donning like a wolf pelt while he hunted for his victims, which...
Wait, that doesn't... That seems counterintuitive.
Yep. That's what I was thinking. I was like, so he's like just this killer? He's a serial killer that wears wolf skin. Okay.
Why don't we see any other werewolves? Because he killed them all. Only logical answer. Okay, yeah, I'm with it.
He was also accused of sexually assaulting his victims before killing them. So they just like added in that spicy, depraved note as a further screw you. So after all that, they said, yeah, death guilty, and ordered his execution. So guess when he was executed?
Halloween on a full moon.
He was executed on October 31st.
Whoa!
1589. I don't know if it was a full moon. You need to look at a chart for that.
Totally called it.
But was killed on Halloween. And it was considered the most brutal execution in German history. And it was truly over the top. So, they tortured him to get that confession out of him.
Yeah.
Before they executed him, they went ahead and tortured him some more. So...
We're going to execute you, but we're going to torture you before we execute you, because fuck you.
Yeah, pretty much. So they put him on a wheel, they broke all his limbs, and then flayed him.
Oh my God.
So it sounds like the accusations are just all projection.
Yes. I believe you are right.
That's... even my worst enemy, I would not do that to.
Mm-hmm.
Like the idea of just putting him on a wheel and breaking all his limbs.
Mm-hmm. And then removing his flesh? Like,
They filleted him.
yeah, like, was that
Oh.
necessary?
That's not even remotely. Oh my God.
So then that's the torture part, the execution. They beheaded him and then burned his body. To top it off, they also executed Stumpp's mistress and daughter. They were also, yeah,
What?
yeah. And I didn't find much detail on like why
We
they
don't put up with
decided-
the murder of women and children in this town.
Yeah, let's execute these bitches.
If you're going to fornicate or be born from werewolves, you die. Because we have decency.
Mercy. So they were also flayed, apparently, strangled, and then burned with him.
Oh, okay. Strangled?
Mm-hmm.
Not hung. Strangled.
No, it's.
Are you telling me that they actually like?
I'm sure they didn't do it with their hands. I don't know, but they were strangled.
That's what I'm seeing.
I'm sure they did it in some scary German way.
That
Somewhat,
is so.
what are those things called? Like when you have the rope and you're like using something to like help you twist it.
And then the
I
executioner
don't know.
was, the executioner was all unnaturally hairy. They had like really long fingernails. It kept howling.
Bedburg.
The curse continues. No, that is just, I get it in the sense of the time, but like, that's a woman that was and a child. Like, how old? What did it say? How old the child was?
No, it didn't say how old she
That's
was.
just come on. Like, how do you?
Come on,
How do you?
medieval Germany. Come
Okay,
on.
look. Every country back then, I get it, was primitive in many different ways, but even to that point,
You primitive Germans.
to strangle a child because you think it was bore from a werewolf, I don't know. That disgusts me on so many levels.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't do more of the detailed stuff that I kept finding about their torture and executions.
Thank you for
like
that,
glossed
'cause
over it.
That, I mean, like, I know we laugh and we joke, but when it comes to kids, I never like the idea of any child suffering.
Sure. I think we would all agree with you.
Oh, I know you would. I'm not
Except
saying
for
you
the
wouldn't.
child killers out there.
Yeah, except for them. Fuck them.
All right. So let's get into our theories. Of course, the first one was Stumpp was actually a friggin' werewolf. Okay.
I'm pretty sure the accusers were the werewolves. And this stinks of projection all the way through.
This is like that game, what is that? Ultimate Night of Werewolf? I don't even remember what it's
The
called.
Catholic werewolves.
I agree with James. This
As
screams
a Catholic
projection.
werewolf himself, Chris agrees with me.
Wow, way to out me on that. When I have a mob of angry villagers with their pitchforks outside my door, I'm going to call you before they.
No. That's my whole point. You are the mob of angry pitchforks. Because projection.
Well, you know what?
What's
Here's
the
a
best
confession.
way? What's the best way to hide your own werewolfism, or werewolfery?
So, Chris, if werewolves are real, what do you think? What version of them do you think they'd be? Like where they actually turn into wolves, or where they're like the hybrid?
Define hybrid.
No, like where they're like bipedal still, and like, but they look like
You mean like
wolf
Wolfman?
monsters. Yeah.
Are we talking like Twilight werewolves versus like Lon Chaney werewolf?
We're not talking about Twilight anything.
I don't know. Did you say Lon Chaney? I don't know what that is.
Like chained up in the lawn like a regular dog?
Did you both
That would be a really good, anti-burglary deterrent. Just a werewolf
two
chained
of
in
my
the front yard.
oldest friends not understand when I said Lon Chaney?
Lon Chain.
Chaney.
Lon
He was
Chaney.
an actor in the 19. Oh my god! It's okay. It's okay. I love both of you unconditionally, and that's so. Lon Chaney was an actor who played multiple monster roles, and one of those was the Wolfman in I want to
The
say
Wolfman.
early 40s.
Okay, so he's like the classic movie werewolf. I think
Well,
I'm thinking of
science.
this person. I'm not talking about science.
When were we ever talking about science?
I am very open to the idea that yes, it is possible that somebody could metamorphose into something else. Science has even shown that certain species can, to a degree, metamorphose. So I'm open. I guess I could say. I guess
So
I
if
should say.
caterpillars can become butterflies,
Yeah.
people can become werewolves. It's science. Case closed.
Well, we have people who grow unnaturally long hair. That is
They're
actually a
werewolves.
scientific condition. Now, they're not werewolves, but they can.
Chris, I didn't ask that question to patronize you. I'm
Oh,
open to
no,
the
I know.
possibility as well. Okay, I didn't want you to think I was like attacking you for asking that question. I just wanted to know
Christina.
like what
Yeah,
you
I mean, as a Catholic, you're already 30% more likely to be the werewolf, as the
Christina,
story has shown.
listen to me. I am always feel safe with you. I always feel safe with your questions. I always feel safe with your direction.
I don't
That
ever
one-
feel safe.
James. I don't know. No,
James,
I
yeah.
always feel safe with both of you. No, it's fine. Do I actually believe that
feel in
when the
danger
moon turns
every
full,
moment
does
around
somebody
you.
turn into a monster? No, I don't.
Well, okay, what's that? Sorry, go ahead.
Do I think that there might be something out there to a basis of it all? Yeah, it's possible. Do I think that there are people out there that are capable of, to a certain degree, as I said earlier, or I stated earlier, a metamorphosis? Yes. But I don't throw that under the category of paranormal or anything like that. It's science. There is a science. I know. I see you face. Well, I'm saying, like, you've seen them, James. You've
It's
seen them with the
science.
people who unnaturally grow hair on their face. That is a natural occurrence. Now, that's
Yeah,
not.
and then they eat people afterwards.
I mean,
Well, they don't.
I don't know.
Let's not put that out there. But what I was actually thinking from this conversation was the Wendigo.
Oh, Wendigos are creepy.
Yeah, so I kind of feel like they're related, and in that case, I guess it's more of like a possession or a
I don't know. On
like
a
your
Wendigo
soul
versus werewolf
changes.
fight, I'm betting on the Wendigo.
Maybe. Okay, I'm gonna have to do more research on Wendigos. We should do an episode on them.
Wendigos are
Yeah.
scary. Yeah.
Yeah. Kids talking to the background.
Yeah,
They're not as
Henry
scary
is-
as Catholic werewolves that accuse everybody else of being werewolves.
Yeah,
No,
that's
my
the
brother
scariest
bear
of them
is
all.
my brother bear is quite a sweetheart. Henry, I don't know. I if I'm being honest, I have no stasis or platform about what I believe in werewolves. The werewolves legend goes back centuries. Is there a possibility? I believe there's a possibility in all things. Vampires, werewolves, all of it. Somebody told me once that in every legend there is a drop of fact. What that is in this situation, I don't know. But
Hell yeah, Ashtar.
Mhm.
but I am open to the idea that a lot of things are possible because that makes life interesting. That makes life very fascinating to me. Ghosts, vampires, werewolves, all kinds
Galactic
of things.
bands.
That's why we do the show. And perhaps maybe Peter Stumpp was a werewolf. Probably not. But who knows? And that's what we're here to do. is just
And that concludes the story of Stumpy the werewolf.
That does not conclude it.
I just really wanted to say that.
Christina gets to conclude this story.
I just really wanted to say Stumpy the werewolf.
I conclude this story, not you. I have the power.
I just needed to say Stumpy the werewolf.
Oh,
should be this episode's title.
Stumpy the werewolf.
Yes.
Okay. So the other two potential theories, other than him being a werewolf, that he was a scapegoat, like we kind of talked about earlier.
A scapegoat to the Catholic werewolves.
Yes, to the Catholic werewolves. One Night Ultimate Werewolf. That's what the game's called. Okay.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I'm really bad at that game because you can tell when I'm lying. My face turns beet red. So I hate being the werewolf.
That's why one of the many reasons I love you is because you're a bad liar.
All right. And then the last theory is that Stumpp was a serial killer. This one's super popular because, nowadays we're like obsessed with serial killers.
Which I'd say is probably the most plausible.
Second to Catholic werewolves.
Being a scapegoat. Yeah, I really don't know because there's no evidence. Like, we don't even know the dude's real name. So to me, there's like no real evidence that he was actually murdering people, because all that's cited are like these supposed confessions and accusations from townsfolk. So there's no like actual evidence, but there is like this pamphlet. It's like 16 pages long about Stumpp's life. And I think that's where it comes from, because it was written by this dude that, well, you tell me if this sounds unbiased and totally credible. So this is the introduction for that 16-page pamphlet. A true discourse declaring the damnable life and death of one Stulba Peter, a most wicked sorcerer who in the likeness of a wolf committed many murders, continuing this devilish practice 25 years, killing and devouring men, women, and children.
Yeah, as far as Tales of Stumpp goes, I fall short.
I mean, I'm sold.
Totally unbiased, objective opinion. The damnable life. But yeah, I mean, like I said, we don't know that much about him, so I don't see how there could be any really good proof that he was even a serial killer. But there was at least one of the websites that I looked at when I was doing my research was completely convinced that it was a serial killer and was like writing as if it's a known fact that he was a serial killer. But like no other information really suggested that they knew either way, like what was up. All right, so here's the fun bit I'll leave you off on. So now you're a werewolf.
So now you're a werewolf.
So now you're a werewolf. What do you do next?
Yes. So have you found yourself Satan's wolf-shaped puppet? Fear not. I have some tips for unwerewolfing yourself.
Oh, good.
Okay, so the first couple I'm going to do, you could probably safely do. The last half of it are deadly, so I do not suggest doing them. Okay. So the first one would be...
No werewolves were harmed in the making of this podcast.
No.
Don't worry. There were no full moons.
Okay, so the first one, to unwerewolf yourself or de-werewolf, whatever. Exhaustion. So, I mean, I'm tired after every day. But ancient Greeks and Romans believed that extensive physical activity would cleanse you of the werewolf malady. So just wear yourself out at the gym.
So have somebody throw a stick around and chase that stick around over and over and over again.
You do lots of jumping jacks and jog in place and then run around chasing your tail. You'll be fine.
The next one is actually German. So I don't know why they didn't do this one. Maybe this came after they murdered Peter Stumpp. I don't know. But basically just address the werewolf by their Christian name 3 times. Done. Cured.
And they're like, Peter. Oh,
What is your name?
Peter
name?
Alexander Heinrich Stumpp. You come here right now, Peter.
That's why he had so many names, so no one could cure him. He wanted to remain a werewolf.
Archibald Jeremiah J. Rasputin CC Esquire the Third. You come here right now. I'm gonna say it 2 more times. I swear to God.
Okay, and then the Danes are the only ones that had anything that was like safe to do, which is scold them, and that's it. They'll be cured. Give them a
bad
lecture.
werewolf.
Yeah.
You're not a good boy. You are not the bestest boy.
You little son of a bitch.
Cured.
Okay, so
Archibald Jeremiah
Play
J.
fetch
Rasputin
until
CC Esquire the
exhaustion.
Third. I said
Uh-huh.
it twice now.
call them by their
Don't get
Christian
me through the
name.
3rd time. You know what happened to Beetlejuice.
Scold them.
Mhm.
And then what's next? Rub their nose in their pee?
Okay, the rest of them are
No,
potentially
you roll
deadly.
them over on their back and you spit in their mouth.
Or you scratch
Ew.
the belly? What? You and I went 2 very different directions on that one.
No.
I don't even.
I'm telling you, that's
No.
so that's what they do. If you want to break a dog of their
I highly question that.
my grandmother's neighbor, the whole premise was that if you want a dog to submit, you roll them over on their back and
I'm pretty
You-
sure that's how you get any living creature to submit, or
I
at least be
guess.
stunned for a moment.
you spit in their face or mouth.
I mean, I know it would stop me for a good 5 seconds at least.
The minute you
'cause I'd
roll
be
me
like,
over
"What
my
the hell
back,
did
you don't
just
even
do?"
have to spit. I will be like, listen, I don't know what's going on, but whatever you want, it's yours. I don't care.
I'm no dog expert, but I have Lucy and Jar Jar, and Lucy is always terrorizing Jar Jar. And one of the things she does is get his whole snout in her mouth. And I wonder if it's a similar concept.
So you don't spit in the mouth; you just wrap your mouth around their snout.
I mean, if that's what you
Glad to clear that up.
if that's what you'd rather do, go for it. I don't care.
Just like put your mouth around the dog's
I
snout.
will
No,
say
I'm not
the-
suggesting that. You might get bit. Don't do it, people.
I will say that. And then
Yeah,
the
because
second
no one in their right mind does that. I mean, I think it would work on like literally anything with a pulse. It's like you're.
it's
Mm.
dogs.
I know, I
don't
would
There
be
are
stunned
snippy
for a
dogs,
hot
though.
minute.
Well, this is why you can't beat dogs and then expect them to not bite you. But
Right.
it's like a similar concept. Like you can't spit in their mouth and expect a dog that wasn't behaving to suddenly behave. They probably bite your face.
Well, it's not obedience at that point; it's fear.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beyond me, because I would never do that to a dog.
Yeah. I mean, some dogs will like cower and you can beat them or whatever. Like I don't beat my dogs. I'm not saying you should beat your dogs, but like abusive people will torment their dogs and then they're surprised when their dog turns on them. It's like, well, because the alpha thing doesn't really work. You're actually engaging with a domesticated predator. And so you need to more
Right.
have like a symbiotic relationship with them rather than trying to be like,
Exactly.
I dominate you and I lord over you with fear, because that's not really like gonna
See,
work.
I always believed in creating a bond
Mhm.
with them, not lording over them and being like,
Yeah.
well, I'm the leader of the pack. I always believed in, you're safe with me. I love you. You're accepted. You're safe. And I will protect you. And
That's how I am
Cassie-
with Caboose.
Yeah.
I think that we like dogs and cats and deer in this group. Yeah.
I like animals.
I do.
I like animals too.
I like animals. Very
Okay.
good.
I really
Um,
want a bunny.
With hats.
Yes, that's what I would do.
I know.
Would your cats terrorize the bunny though?
That's
Yes.
why. So okay, so the way supposedly the way you do it, if you get a kitten and a baby bunny at the same time and grow them up to be bestest of friends, it works. But otherwise, you are begging for trouble.
Okay, these are the unsafe methods, so don't actually do them. Okay, so it's unsafe. So obviously it came from medieval Europeans. So one method for de-werewolfing yourself is to take some wolfsbane, which is poisonous. So again, don't do that. It's fatal. 0 out of 10, do not recommend. They had some surgical methods, which I couldn't find any solid info on, but since it's medieval Europeans doing it, I'm sure it was fatal. Exorcism. And then the last one, convert to Christianity. Probably Catholicism, if I were a betting man. No shade to you, Chris. I see you looking at me with those piercing blue eyes.
With those piercing Catholic werewolf eyes.
Yeah, I have piercing blue Catholic eyes.
Don't make him mad. He'll project onto us.
The pagan is pissing him off. Okay. And then the last one is from the Sicilians. So they believed you could cure someone of werewolfism by hitting the afflicted on the forehead or scalp with a knife. Or
that's a very Italian solution, yeah. So we're gonna just give him a little stab. After you make him an offer you can't refuse.
Or piercing their hands with nails. So
that's very Roman.
Yeah.
I'm going to claw you if you don't stop.
So don't
I just
do
like
the last
mafia
couple.
solution. Just knife the guy.
Yeah, like what is it, like the side of the blade where it won't cut you, or is it like straight up the sharp side? Hit them with it. That's
the mafia don't play.
a mess.
It's just gonna be knife to the gut.
I did see something though that said like if you wanted to tell if someone were a werewolf, you could cut their skin, and then underneath would be fur. So maybe that's where that comes from. I don't know. Like hit them on the head,
then how does
fur comes out?
How does the fur get to the other side when they become a werewolf?
They shed their human skin
and then just grow it back really quick.
I don't know. Ask the magic.
Or are they like a transformer and like panels of skin rotate?
Like a transform and turn into a werewolf.
Maybe it's Satan's werewolf belt that does it. I don't know.
Satan's werewolf belt plus 13 agility. Extra bonus during the midnight hour of a full moon.
All right. Well, that's the story of the Werewolf of Bedburg. I don't know. Where can you find us now? We're on Spotify, Amazon Music, and iTunes or Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts. We're not on iTunes.
Whatever you dirty Apple people use.
Find us.
And you can also email us at littlepodcasthorrors@gmail.com. Feel free to send your personal stories, and that's it. So bye.
Yeah, last char.
And that's it.